Welcome. This playlist collects together and organizes the individual component modules of the second lecture covering the material from the chapter, What is Critical Thinking? And in the first lecture, we talked about how critical thinking can't dramatically change the way you natively process information, nor can it dramatically change the amount of information you can process, for instance, in your working memory. And so for that reason, supposing that the critical thinking course would be like taking an inoculation to irrationality is a pretty misconceived idea. But you might go away from those lectures thinking to yourself, well, human beings aren't particularly fantastic reasoners. They don't make particularly great decisions, and there's nothing to be done about it. And that is definitely not true. So what we want to do in this lecture is start off by addressing that, by looking at what it is that critical thinking can do and argue that it's quite significant, even if it's not this wonderful panacea for irrationality. So we'll start off by just thinking about the potential of critical thinking. And I'll give you two arguments to the effect that even a small number of relatively small changes, just a few inflection points in your individual life, forming a better events belief, making a slightly more optimal decision. These things will compound throughout the course of your life. And what you'll see is that they result in a dramatic increase in the overall quality of your life. We'll run through a similar version of this that looks at indirect or collateral benefits. So benefits that you didn't anticipate, or benefits that from your actions that accrue to other individuals that may be close or removed at a distance from you. And we'll see the same effect only magnified even more. Those two arguments are sufficient to establish, I think, this point. But then we want to start looking at a more nuanced understanding of what critical thinking really has to do. And so we're going to go beyond simple beliefs that are true and false in decisions, and we'll start looking at more nuanced categories. So we'll start by talking about the difference between making optimal decisions and making decisions that are better, but not completely optimal or satisficing decisions. Then we'll look at the difference between highly events beliefs and poorly events beliefs. So the idea here is that we often don't or even can't make a decision or a choice that is optimal, that minimizes risk and maximizes benefit. But that doesn't mean that there aren't better choices for us to make, that if we had made them, it wouldn't improve our lives. Likewise, with our highly versus poorly events beliefs, the idea here is that we're not necessarily in a position to know whether a belief is true. We may only have good reasons to suppose that it is. And so what we're really looking for is to come up with beliefs that are well evinced, that have good intersubjectively verifiable reasons that support them. Then we'll talk about how our critical thinking is intimately dependent upon the knowledge that we have, our ability to gather information from the environment, to do research, or just to gather information from the immediate environment and how important that actually is. And then we'll talk about belief systems and worldviews, the beliefs that have made it into our long-term memory that sit around in the background of our cognition, helping to inform our choices and our inferences in ways that aren't direct or obvious, but nevertheless are real. After we get done talking about this, we'll end up by formulating 7 potential benefits of a critical thinking course. And we'll turn our attention then to the overall structure of the course, what we're going to do, and then the general order in which the term will unfold. So let's start with this framing question. Is critical thinking worth the effort? I want to argue that critical thinking has this tremendous potential to improve the lives not just of yourself, but of every creature that you come into contact with, directly and indirectly. And it's a pretty bold claim, but let's see if we can flesh it out in a way that is easy to sort of follow. So we'll start off by thinking about our individual beliefs as being true or false, and our decisions as being optimal or not. And so our beliefs and our decisions then are going to generate cumulative positive or negative values. So I'm going to assume, look, true beliefs, beliefs that accurately represent the nature of the world, they have a positive value. And decisions that are optimal, they result in a positively valued outcome. So true beliefs and optimal decisions will be considered to have positive values, whereas false beliefs and suboptimal decisions will be considered to have negative values. So let's take a look at how individual beliefs or decisions can propagate through your life. So I call this argument the compound benefits cost argument for critical thinking. And sometimes you get some version of this in a less direct way in some critical thinking texts. So let's suppose that I don't make you perfectly rational, but I give you the tools and the awareness and the motivation that allows you to make 14 better choices or 14 better beliefs, more highly advanced beliefs. Over the course of your 50 years, every year, you make those 14 better choices or beliefs. And that's not some dramatic thing. That's really around a belief or choice a month. And that's going to result in 700 net inflection points in your life, points at which you would have made this choice, but instead now you've made this choice. So you would have formed this belief, but instead now you've formed this belief. And let's assign them a value. That value, just $1 a choice or belief. So in effect, we've got $700 of benefit. And so you may think, well, that's not that dramatic. But the fact is, our choices aren't isolated things that give us immediate benefit and then disappear in a puff of smoke. Our choices get compounded through our lives. And so we'll take that $700 and we'll represent how our choices percolate through our existence by compounding at 6% interest over the course of our 50 years. The resulting value then, our money value here, is $5,266.47. So in other words, right, an increase of 752%. So the immediate benefit that we may or may not see when we make a choice, that isn't all the benefit that accrues in our lives. As we make our choices, it changes the course and direction of our lives. Our beliefs change the course and direction of our lives. And so they continue to accrue benefits in a less obvious way. And we represent that here with this idea. And so ultimately, right, there's that immediate benefit of $1. And then there's an additional $751 of benefit that gets extended over time. And we'll pick this up in the next lecture module.